dead grass and live bushes. There's this thing I've recently started to wonder about. Do people not look into the camera when taking pictures because then they could look into their own eyes? I hate looking into my own eyes. I start to feel unreal, as if someone was on the other side of the glass. It's why I keep the mirror in my bedroom covered when I sleep, and don't look into the one in the bathroom when I walk past late at night. Maybe other people don't care? They probably don't see what I see in their eyes. Or maybe they don't recognize themselves. It's not uncommon with people that have mental health issues. I had that when I was younger. I picked at my skin until it bled ever so slightly, but I never figured out why I hated looking at me. It doesn't matter anyways. I don't anymore. I do still hate mirrors though. Last night I was dancing and singing along to creepy songs, things that villains would say if they were much more stupid. Why in the seven hells would you ever tell people your plan? Tell them that you lied, that you want them to suffer. It won't help you. They'll prepare better. I am a very good liar. The trick is never to say you're a good liar to people. And when you lie about things that don't matter, like in poker, be bad at it. So when you actually need or want to lie, no one thinks you are. Though, I don't really lie. I value honesty above everything else. Good music, though. The whole time, I was staring into my own eyes, something I tend not to do because it creeps me out. But being creeped out fit the vibe, it fit the emotions, it fit. Because I was putting myself in the shoes of the villain. So, with wide eyes, I fixed my gaze on my own glare and stopped blinking, singing along, my body jerking to the beat. To look through people is kind of easy, isn't it? I don't like a lot of people. Genuinely. After a while, I always see their flaws. The way they clutch their arms and gawk at strangers. I notice that they laugh at someone falling down, or they act without thinking, causing harm in the end, sloshing up their supposed friends, and then, when they vomit on their new pretty shoes, berate them for drinking so much. Sometimes, on very good days, all I need is a quick look into their eyes to physically recoil. Luckily, I don't have it with my friends anymore. And with that I mean that I do, but I'm willing to ignore and forget it. And I'm sure they have done horrible things. I was there. I just don't care, because I see the good things too. That is harder to do with strangers, because mistakes seep into eyes with ease. It's not like I am a good person. I'm not. I'm sure I've done worse things than they have. Once, I wanted to kill two people. A mirror was close by, and I caught my own eyes. If I hadn't, then I would most likely be the top story in an old newspaper by now. Fresh grass and dead bushes swished past me. I reflected slightly in the window, but kept my view away from my face. I always tried to notice nature when I was taking the bus. I always failed, too. I tried to notice the fresh light green leaves that just sprouted on the brown branches, the small white flowers that bloom on others, the way the grapevines are still cut down so they may grow better this year, or the fact that the bus just stopped in the middle of the road because the driver forgot to let out the woman behind me. But my mind always wanders. For example, I know I can't be a saint because I haven't paid for a bus ticket for literal years. Why would I? I still have the plastic card I was handed in school, and they never checked that thing, even though it isn't valid anymore. And in no fiber of my being can I see anything wrong with that. I just gotta get places, and I don't want to pay. So I don't. I do think I'm kind. I forced myself to learn it. It's not that I specifically want to be kind. It's much more that I am aware of the concept of consequences and the repercussions it'll have on me too. If I could have killed those two without anything happening to me, I probably would have. I also wouldn't think about it anymore. It's why I don't let myself love. If I would ever let myself love someone, truly love someone, I'd be obsessed. I once was in love, and for them, I would have set myself on fire in a heartbeat. I leaned to my side as the bus barely caught the curve. So these days, I only truly hate things, because obsessed is something I deeply want to be. I just know better. So, hate is easier. It's closer. And everyone who knows me knows I hate a lot of things. I hate a lot of people. And I also couldn't care less about all those things if they aren't directly mentioned. I hate stupid things, like red polka dots. Oh, but I would tear down the world for anything I was in love with. Weirdly enough, that is the reason I truly know I'm not a good person. I don't think anyone knows, though, or even cares. I stared out the window again, trying to figure out where I'd lost my trail of thought. Wasn't I trying to figure something out? Ah, right, eyes. When I look into my own eyes long enough in front of a mirror, then I can't tell on which side I stand anymore. I barely know if anything is real, to be honest. I do know that we are, both of us, the one in the mirror, which I deeply pray isn't actually me or real, and the one that I hope I am. All I know is that when I see into my own eyes, is that terror sinks into my body. Sometimes I step back by instinct. No one else has actually ever seen that. I did tell a friend of mine once that I was very sure that I am in fact insane, and for a second I dropped the massive wall I had built behind my pupils, and I could watch how their eyes widened, their pupils tightened, and their muscles stiffened. They laughed it off after a few seconds, but it was the same reaction I have when I see them. I also think that sane people don't think about these things as they drive home, and yet I don't imagine insane people know that they're insane. Or do they? I do like the thought of being insane. I like reading about villains. I like reading about people like Hemingway. People that just do things and not think about what'll happen next. I too want to know what bones cracking under my feet sounds like. I think about it a lot, which might be concerning. It's one of the few things that I can't stop thinking about. The being insane bit, not the bones, that just comes with the territory. I think that might be what I see, my hunger for insanity and the obsession I have about it, and I don't want to see it. I know I am capable of it. The scars all over my body prove it. As long as I know what happens next, I'll do anything, even bite open my cheeks until they must scar. I don't want to be that person. It reminds me of the people that made me not recognize myself in the mirror. I never wanted to fit in. Simply being left alone would have been enough. But it never was. I refuse to be like them. I refuse to hurt others. I refuse to not think of what my actions can do. I would never want to fit in with them. Though, the sweet, hazy view one has once they scream at the top of their lungs to cover up the pain as tears run down your face and everything becomes quiet. You only have tunnel vision on your own eyes as they gaze back at you in the mirror, trying to figure out if letting go of your heart worked for morals is worth it. Trying to get you to lose them every single time you let your walls down. To just maybe do it. It is quite tempting. I try to focus back on the nature outside. Maybe I see a stork or something. I like storks. They're quiet. Mostly because now you're asking yourself, hey, what noise does a stork make? And how have I never heard it? The reason you've probably never heard a stork is because you can't. They don't make what you think of as a bird call. They mostly just hiss and clatter with their bill, though I think they can honk, which is just a funny thing to imagine. They are too graceful to honk, I think. The grass was lush and almost growing violently. It didn't matter how much trash collected on the side of the road, it grew right past it. Meanwhile, the beige straws of the shrubs could barely stand up under the weight of themselves or the water that had trickled down a few minutes before I got into the bus. The cold of the winter had killed them. You might think all of these bushes are dead. They are not. Some almost have the height of a small tree, and while they do look dead with their brownish hue, or the fact that you can see through them because no leaves would ever let themselves be seen with something so sad, distracts fully from the fact that the tips of each branch just grew. Or the fact that most of these will only start regaining color with another month, since it was still freezing cold at night, and they knew better than to destroy their hard work. So they wait until it's warmer, for longer. It'll happen sooner or later. If we weren't drifting in each curve with a truly impressive accuracy, then maybe I could even see the spring flowers too, but at the moment they're just purple spots rushing by. I pressed the stop button. I'm pretty sure I'm the last one in the bus. I can't see anyone anyways, but maybe they're just slumped down. Things aren't always as they seem. Sometimes you just overlook people. Sometimes you don't want to see things, so you see others. I remember this kid. I say kid, but he's older than me. But this kid, I was enamored by him. He was like something out of a story your friends tell you about. And when I looked at him, I saw the most rotten thing I've ever seen. The kind where you wonder how the flesh hadn't been peeled off by karma. He was horrible. He said things like, men and women should work at different times of the day because their genetics make it so that they function better then. Which is just ridiculous. He said my age didn't matter, but when he found out I was younger, he treated me with less respect. He threw his still lit cigarettes in the fields of hard-working farmers, and yet I was almost obsessive, simply because I didn't like him. All the consequences that usually existed didn't now. If he wasn't in my life, by God, that would have been a good thing. Then one night we talked, and he asked me what I thought of him, so I told him. You suck. He laughed, thinking I made a joke, but then stopped when he realized I hadn't. When he asked why, I said I don't want to hurt him, but he insisted, so I told him again. It was late, and all the rules that I had usually set for myself didn't exist anymore. For I didn't like him, and I was tired. I wanted to watch him dance. I wanted to see what he would do next, how he reacted. So with glistening eyes, I watched as he crumpled together with each word that ran down my chin like golden tree resin, catching more and more flies. Telling him how the blatant disregard for anything that he didn't understand or couldn't be twisted for him made me sick and was pathetic to watch. How he said that he wanted to do better but never tried. That all he had were words. How he pretended to know what was going on. Could be seen by a star-nosed mole in the dark. He wasn't fooling anyone. How worshipping a god that agreed with everything you do was foolish and just a way to cheat and lie to yourself and others. I could swear I watched him with a tilted head and burning grin as I was finally done. I saw the terror in his eyes as I read him without mercy, how all the close-kept secrets he hadn't ever been secrets to me. Even the things he had buried so deep in his subconscious, the ones he never wanted to know. All those things were now laid out in front of him like tarot cards. And I had just sat there, watching him with a smile. He couldn't look at me. Finally, after a few minutes of him being quiet, I got bored and asked if he was okay. Still horrified, he laughed, that he had to agree with everything I had said. I just explained that it wasn't that hard. It was all in his eyes. He tried to see if he could tell the same from mine, but gave up rather swiftly. He said he needed some time to himself and also sleep. So I said goodnight and left him to his mess. I don't remember if I laughed on the way home, but I can't promise I hadn't. The next day he had forgotten all about it, ignoring all those emotions, doing the same as he always did. We don't talk anymore. Of course we don't. I still make him uncomfortable with my mere presence, and it helps that I am incredibly rude. After all, he was horrible. Christ, now that I really think about it, he was truly mean to me too, always complaining when I didn't do what he wanted. I was just so enchanted by hearing him spout meaningless phrases that meant everything to him that I had ignored it at the time. He was just so much fun to watch. I hadn't done anything like that again, though. No one else had ever been that interesting. It's also not very nice. It is a thing I have done, and I'm okay with that. I still quite like myself. You could even say love. The bus stopped with a big wobble, and I stepped out, questioning if I should say goodbye or thank you, but the doors had already closed behind me. I shrugged and continued down my path until I'd reached the traffic light, leaned against the button, and crossed the road as it lit up bright green. I think my point of all this thinking is just that all those things that I've done, I see them when I stare too long into the mirror. Because my eyes, just like any others, preserved my mistakes in the iris, even the pupil, like a camera takes a snapshot. I shook my head and stopped, fixing my eyes on the nearest trash can, even though it was in the opposite direction of where I had to go. People suck. I picked up the trash that had gathered on the grass next to the parked cars. It's not that hard to keep your trash in your pocket, or, find a trash can. I mean, damn, what's wrong with you people? My fingers were still ever so slightly wet as I let go of the old newspaper, cigarette stubs, and golden plastic wrappers in which small dead bugs stuck to the last bits of melted candy. No wonder I didn't like looking into my own eyes. I knew exactly what I had done and why I wasn't a good person. And I'd still set fire to myself in a heartbeat.